Wiig, Code Green ThinkTech Hawaii. I have as my guest the exciting Dana Cotter from Energy Accelerators. Turns out that they are one of the leading economic drivers for transitioning Hawaii to a renewable or clean energy economy. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. First and foremost, how in the world did you get involved with Energy Accelerator?
That's a great question. So I actually went to school at the University of Hawaii Manoa, and I was at Scheidler College of Business. I went into the Career Center, and I told them, I'm a student interested in renewable energy and social entrepreneurship. What do you have for me? And they kind of avoided the question. We're like, oh, have you seen these internships? And I came back about a week later, and they had an email from Lauren, who is actually our communications director at the Energy Accelerator, and they offered to show me the video, and I just fell in love with their cause and what they do and their mission. So that's how I actually found the Energy Accelerator.
Yeah. It was tailor-made for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how did you come to be interested in this field before then, as you were going through Scheidler?
Yeah, that's a great question. I studied abroad in Spain, and I really saw how business is the one thing that is across the globe and really connects everyone, and we have a real chance with business to change the world and change how we do things. And so when I read the Energy Accelerator's mission statement of trying to solve the world's energy challenges starting in Hawaii, it just really called to me.
And when you were in Spain and probably other European countries, did you by any chance notice that although the European countries have standards of living approximately equal to ours, that they use 40 to 50% as much energy per capita?
I was not that aware of energy at that time, but it was definitely a great experience for a bunch of different life lessons.
Yeah, yeah. And you got a taste probably of the fact that we don't need to use 6 gazillion BTUs per person per year.
Definitely. One thing that I did notice about it was the mass amounts of public transportation, which is one of the areas that we focus on with the Energy Accelerator as a part of our systems approach to energy innovation here in Hawaii.
Yeah, I recently was talking to somebody who was a visiting student in Sweden, and she said the first thing about being Swedish, even in this cold, cold climate, is you get a bicycle.
Oh, really?
And you're expected to bicycle around even in the middle of the Swedish winter.
That's intense.
Either that or take mass transit.
Yeah.
The number of cars per capita is way, way, way down.
Definitely.
And that's true generally of Europe, and in Japan, likewise. They have about our standard of living, and they use only about 40% as much energy per capita as we do. So there is hope for us yet.
Definitely.
Thanks to the path being carved by Energy Accelerator.
Yeah.
Now, you have an elevator speech that answers the question, what is Energy Accelerator?
Yeah, the Energy Accelerator is a startup program. We're based in Hawaii, and we really focus on commercializing technology that will be innovative for the energy sector here in Hawaii. But we focus on it in a couple different ways. First is we focus on a systematic approach. So we don't just focus on energy efficiency or grid support. We actually focus on grid technology, transportation, agriculture, water, cybersecurity, because we believe that everything's really interconnected. And that's one thing that's very important to us, is to address all of these different parts of the system in order to address the underlying problem. And we do this in 2 different ways. We go with our go-to-market track. It's our earlier stage companies. We give them $75,000, and we really help them discover who their customer is and what their business model is going to be. And then our demonstration track, which is what I focus on mostly within the Energy Accelerator, is our later stage companies. We give them up to $1 million of funding for a transformational project. So these are companies who are looking to really scale up and commercialize, and we connect them with partners, we give them funding, and we really try to set up a project that will help take their company to the next level.
You know, when you talk about this systematic approach, looking at all angles of the economy, I'm reminded of the fact that I've had 3 or 4 friends recently who've had health difficulties. And they've seen the doctor, and the doctor says, and I ask, what is the cause of this malady? Oh, he didn't say. And I use that analogy for if you're looking at the energy field and you just take one teeny little slice of the pie, you're not addressing the entire pie. You're not doing a holistic energy health
Exactly.
scene for Hawaii
Exactly.
here. Yeah. And next inevitable question is, where in the world does all this money come from?
So we are primarily funded through the Department of the Navy. They committed $30 million over 6 years, and 5 years. And that was the main thing that got us off the ground. Now we're really focusing on the private side. So in the last year, we've come in with a couple different corporate sponsors, including Denso, which was a big one for us because they were our first international sponsor. We also had GE Ventures recently come in as a corporate sponsor, as well as Hawaiian Electric is a corporate sponsor as well.
And what is, since the lion's share of your funding so far anyway, let's hope that other huge donors come into the picture. Why is the Navy, and from my experience, the military in general, so interested in energy efficiency or renewables?
The reason why the Energy funded us primarily is because it's too difficult to do it in-house. And so we are the functional experts in this space that we can bring talent from all over the country, including Hawaii, and really foster this innovative ecosystem and bring entrepreneurs to solve these problems, starting in Hawaii. Why is Hawaii important in this equation is because we're isolated. We have the highest energy cost of the nation by 3 to 4 times. And we also have the perfect renewable energy sources, almost all of them available throughout the world. And so if a technology can work here and we can commercialize it and get traction on it here, it can work almost anywhere.
And we have isolated grids, electrical grids, so that unlike the mainland, you can't just say, oh, if I'm in California, I'll feed in from the other western states or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's a closed system.
Correct.
Where we can examine it more closely. Yeah.
So it's crucial for us to not only have these different points of energy access by renewable energies, but also being able to secure it through cybersecurity and really stabilize it through things like supporting technologies for the grid.
So do we have anything else to talk about before we get into individual programs? Because that's the stuff that I really chew on. Well, let's do the larger question again. Why is the military specifically interested in renewables and efficiency? I mean, from a strategic standpoint.
From a strategic standpoint, I think it's more having that security in their missions and knowing that they can take these technologies that we're providing and we're trying to accelerate and integrate and use these on bases around the world and as things that they can draw on to have their own security and their own
as we were discussing earlier, the situation has changed a whole lot in the last 10 years, but before then, for most of my professional career, we Americans were dependent for oil on those countries that were most volatile and often most hostile to us, so that we have an entire naval fleet, the Sixth Fleet, tied up in the Gulf of Arabia, protecting those countries, and more to the point, protecting our oil interest and the oil interest of Europe and Japan and other countries as well. And that is shifting now very, very rapidly. Yeah.
I think that also draws to a point of just having energy dependence in Hawaii itself. So we import almost $5 billion worth of oil a year, and then we burn those in order to make our electricity. And that's not sustainable. If something happens, if we get cut off, it's like, how are we going to supply Hawaii with the crucial energy that we need in order to keep everything going, everything running?
And that's why we have the highest costs in the nation, because oil is cheap right now, but just a little while ago it was $100 a barrel, and for us, due to circumstances I won't describe, it was more like $130 a barrel. And HECO had no choice but to pass those costs on to us. It's either pass off on the costs or go broke.
It also goes to the importation of a lot of things, including things like food, and that's why that's higher. And that's also why the systematic approach works so well for us, because we're trying to address things like the agricultural need to have and supply our own food and how to close that local supply chain.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
Again, that beautiful systems approach.
Exactly.
Now, our first slide has a bunch of little bubbles on it. If we could see that slide. So yeah, what's this slide all about here now?
So that's a basic overview of our program. So we have 32 active portfolio companies, and then we have 14 that are generating revenue, which is really exciting because in the startup world, it often takes so much money to go in,
Yeah.
and then it takes a very long time to produce money out. And we've actually seen some cases where we were the first money in, and now 2 years later, they're already generating revenue, which is really exciting and kind of is a testament to our kind of
Wow.
program and how it just takes a little bit of help, some connections, and that support of an ecosystem to really help a company flourish.
Wow, that's just remarkable. I've never heard of anything like that, aside from a mom and pop store or something like that. Economists always talk about bridge funding,
Yep.
where you have a little chunk of money to start up, and you're after that big chunk of money out there, but there's this gap.
Yep.
They call the bridge, or the need for bridge funding, and it sounds like Energy Accelerator is providing that bridge.
We provide a lot of funding is among one of the things that we provide, but it's also, so going along with the systematic approach to energy innovation, we also go kind of along a systematic approach to how we try to work these companies through. So the earlier stage companies, we give them a little bit of money, which will help them really get by, but we also connect them to what their business is going to be before they're kind of stuck in a linear fashion. And some of them actually pivot and find their perfect market, which is really exciting for us. And then what we really try to do is get companies to go from the go-to-market track, the earlier stage track, and transition into the demonstration track. We've had 4 companies successfully do that, which is another huge win for us because we're really trying to get these companies to the next level, and if we can advance them in a number of different ways, including funding, that's what we're here for.
That's just beautiful. So do you also serve, or does Energy Accelerator also serve as mentor to these people? Do you have a lot of one-on-one meetings with these people?
We do. So that's one of our approaches is, again, the system, but it's also, we call it the entrepreneurial ecosystem here. So we build in people like the stakeholders, Hawaiian Electric, any of the partners and people that we're working with through projects. We also have, what's really unique about us is we have our demonstration track mentor our go-to-market track. So we are continuously getting our cohorts, that's what we call them, each group of company each year, we call them our cohort. And we get our cohorts to interact with each other on a level where they're opening up their networks and they're really, it's a sharing. We try to choose companies that are not competitive, so there's not like we're fighting for the same thing. It's really this sharing economy, if you will, within the entrepreneurial ecosystem.
So before approaching you, they might have been in their own little shells and kind of looking around, what else is out there? And an Energy Accelerator knows who is out there.
Yeah.
And they say, you should meet, da-da-da-da-da, and da-da-da-da-da.
One really
And
cool.
you bring them together, yeah.
One really cool thing about our program, like our actual programming, is so we have companies all around the country, and including a lot that we choose in Hawaii. But we bring them all together for 1 week of intensive how to do business in Hawaii, who you need to know, how you're going to set up partnerships, because doing business here is definitely unique. And it's really relationship based, and we take that to heart in our program, and we bring in stakeholders and companies all together to really get them to know not only the technology and introduce them to this innovation, but also to get to know the people behind it, because that's a big thing at how we choose companies is who's behind the technology and are they going to fit in with this ecosystem and with our approach.
You know, that brings to mind a company that's been in the headlines just a weeny bit for the last few months, NextEra. And I attended a lunch given by the NextEra Hawaii rep. And just as we were wrapping up, he said, let me ask a general question. Is Hawaii generally opposed to or suspicious of mainland companies trying to come in? And he's asking this after the fact. And it occurs to me that they should have, a better approach would have been for them to take a track like this. Let's get to meet a whole bunch of Hawaii people, see how they react, see where the interest is, where the lack of interest is, and so forth. And that's exactly what you're doing, because doing business here is definitely different.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame, and that's why we really try to educate our companies on what it takes to not only succeed here, but also the qualities of the people that you look at, because it's not, hey, let's go for coffee and then I'm going to do business with you. It's really building that relationship within these circles.
Yeah. Okay, we need to take a break, but when we come back, let's get into some of these specific projects. And I just love to hear about this stuff. This is really transformative. ThinkTech Hawaii, Code Green, back in a minute.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. I'm host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is our flagship show, which plays 4 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. And the supporters of that show are Hawaii Energy Policy Forum and Hawaii Energy. And luckily enough, we have representatives of both of them right here today to tell you more about what they think about the show. Sharon Moriwaki at my left is co-chair of Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, and she goes first. Sharon?
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. I'm so glad that we have this Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. This was 2 years ago when we started this, and we have continued it because it's so important, and there's so many developments happening across the state. And we hope you'll tune in every Wednesday, 4 to 5. It's wonderful.
And Ray is Hawaii Energy. Ray, what is your thought about the same subject?
Well, I agree completely with Sharon that we are talking about every Wednesday, 4 to 5. We talk about some of the most important subjects that are affecting the islands now and into the future. Energy, clean energy, we need it. We often run into new ideas that we had not thought about before. We did just today, and I think we're going to have more of that in the future. So come on down and watch us 4 to 5 on Wednesdays, and
Sometimes we'll go fast, sometimes we'll go slow.
We'll see you then. Aloha.
Aloha.
Good afternoon again. Welcome back. ThinkTech Hawaii, Code Green, Howard Wiig. My distinguished guest this afternoon is Dana Cotter of Energy Excelerator. And we've done the big picture of Energy Excelerator. I'm really impressed about the potential for transforming Hawaii's economy to clean energy. And of course, that's what Governor Ige is all about. We shall have a clean energy economy by the year 2045, which is only 30 years away. Very, very revolutionary stuff. But looking at your programs, I can see where you're definitely going to make this happen. If we could look at the next slide, our journey takes a turn in 2012. You haven't been with Energy Accelerator that long, but can you give us a bit of as much of the history as you can there?
I definitely can.
Yeah.
So we started as a program, or we are a program of PICTER, which is Pacific International Center for High Technology Research. And it started off with a beta of this idea of having something that can take companies from multiple stages to commercialization, because especially in clean tech, that's the biggest challenge, because it's very capital intensive, and you have to get over those bridge gaps like we were talking about earlier. And so our first cohort, from what I understand, I wasn't here for that, was not what they wanted. And so they really took the customer discovery model to heart, and the founders went around the country and did customer interviews, talked with accelerator programs, talked with incubators, government grants.
Wow,
They did the whole thing.
Yeah, find out what works and what doesn't work. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then they came back with the energy accelerator model. And from that, we've been continuously building and learning. We've gotten funding from, like we said, Department of the Navy and a couple other big corporate sponsors. Got support from the local ecosystem, and we've just been growing ever since. Beautiful,
beautiful. And then, yeah, your slide really describes that. Wow, that's a heck of a search. So on the next slide, we see how it works, and it sounds like you're just really breaking new ground here, as far as I know.
We're trying to
Yeah.
combine a bunch of different models, like from when Don and Jill, the co-founders, went around the United States and were looking at what works best. We figured early stage companies are really good for getting that new technology and really kind of fostering that innovation, and a lot of them don't succeed, so that's why we have the go-to-market track.
Yeah.
To really solidify who they're going after, their customers, and what their business model is going to be. And then, but that's not enough. And in order to get those companies to vast commercialization and market acceptance, you need the demonstration track. And you need that extra funding, that pilot project, something that's really going to validate their technology, lower their cost, get them in with local partners, and have a scalable, repeatable model. And that's one of our requirements for the demonstration track. Even if you have a really cool technology, but it's kind of one-off projects where it's very specific, it's not necessarily what we look for. What we really look for is that repeatable business model where you can take this anywhere and just scale it up and reach a whole new level of commercialization.
Yeah. So, sort of like, maybe it's a poor analogy, but Burger King. Burger King worked here. Now you can just put it through all these different cities because you found your winning formula.
Yep, your key ingredient.
And I like that word failure because from all I've read about business development, you're going to have failure after failure after failure. And that's good. You found out what doesn't work.
Yep.
Somehow the individual Thomas Edison comes to mind. How many experiments did he have to find the filament in his light bulb?
Oh, geez. There's a...
10,000.
Yeah.
10,000.
It's dedication.
When reporters asked him, Mr. Edison, you're just failing. He said, no, I've come one step further to finding out what is the ideal filament for my light bulb.
Exactly.
And this is the same principle. You spent $75,000, it fails, okay, we've learned.
We also, I think that's one part that makes us a little different than Thomas Edison, is trying to find those areas that could fail before they happen. So not spending $75,000 and wondering, what did we just do with that? But also like really coming across what are the customers looking for? What do they need? You might have something cool that you think is really awesome and innovative, but if there's no market for it, it's not going to go anywhere. And so that's why we really hound on the customer discovery model, and it's really important to us.
Customer discovery, I really like that.
Yep. So interviews, knowing what the customer's pain point is and how the technologies can address them. And that's customer, not necessarily you and I. Sometimes it is very people focused, but it's utilities, it's big companies, it's what are they doing, what are their problems, and how can we make it better?
I like that phrase, pain point.
Yeah.
What is a pain point?
So it's something that you're struggling with, whether it's big data and how do you decipher that, or if it's how you get feed to your pigs. We have companies that address all these things. We have one of the companies, Protoculture, they take food waste and they create animal feed. But they can do it on farm. So it's a sustainable cycle that causes a huge problem with farmers, because when they're raising piglets, that's the most money they pour into these animals is the feed. And so that would have never come about if they hadn't done this customer discovery model and really found out what their key market is and who they can really address.
And in this instance, if you can supply a lot of the food on site, that eliminates transportation, which is really, really a major component. And then the more you transport it, the older it gets, less nutrition. Wow, good model. So let's see, our next slide is our portfolio, and it's an impressive looking bunch of people. I don't know how in the world. Well, you've been in business since 2006, I think it is. So this is a result of years and years and years of discovery. And then if we look on the right side, you start, I guess that's year one.
So this is, what's interesting about this is this is actually 3 years of companies.
Wow.
Because we had that break to do that customer discovery of our own in the middle. So what's really cool about this is you can see our different systems approach. So we have grid, efficiency, financing, transportation, all things that go into the overall picture. But we also have companies at vastly different stages and covering different parts of that map.
Yeah. Wow.
But it also comes down to having key partners and creating that pipeline. So one of the things that we are very active in is fostering relationships, not only locally, but also with other accelerators and programs nationally, internationally, and really filling those gaps. So we get people who refer us companies all the time. And we do the same for other companies if it's a better fit. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on, is having that pipeline and continuously building on the relationships that we have and working on how do we get the best companies and having good relationships with other people.
Yeah, because your Energy Accelerator is a nonprofit.
Correct.
Presumably, yeah. So in this case, your mission is not to hide a technology and beat out the other guys.
No.
It's to spread the word as widely as possible so that, you know, we use the phrase win-win or triple win. I don't know how many wins come out of this, since you're spreading the word nationwide, and it sounds like worldwide also.
One of the things that is really cool about watching our companies grow and really seeing the effect of our relationships and our networks is seeing them get funding from from capitals, venture capitalists that we introduce them to at one of our events, or seeing them get into other accelerators and other programs and really have that external validation of these are good companies, we're working on the best things for the sector.
Yeah, and the more, in this case, the more good minds you have. Wow. So next slide is one thing I heard about Energy Accelerator. Oh, it's all mainland companies, but I see from this slide that it is absolutely positively not all mainland companies.
Definitely not all mainland companies. We have a very big emphasis on our companies in Hawaii. And not only is it good to have companies and foster this innovation sector within the Hawaii economy, but it's also, when we do have mainland companies, they headquarter here, or they bring people here. We've had multiple companies send their VPs, send their project managers here, which in turn creates more jobs and like really brings this hub of innovation to Hawaii, which is what we're really trying to foster here.
So you're bringing new dollars into here.
New dollars, new talent, and then actively recruiting through internships and things like that. We've done a couple of, we work with Kupu and the RISE program, which is a sustainable internship program, and which I wish I would have heard of, but I'm so happy that they're there. And our companies work with college level students to get them really interested in clean tech and try to foster that next generation of entrepreneurs or people who want to go into this clean tech sector, which is huge for our future of, like you said, 100% renewable energy.
Yeah, you know, I'm part of the Department of Business Economic Development, and I've been there so long that I am always thinking, how does this affect Hawaii's economy? And we're bringing in new people, new brains, instead of having a brain drain, or bright people going off to California, whatever, we're having a brain gain.
Exactly.
And on that cheery note, we need to take a break. ThinkTech Hawaii, Howard Wiig, Code Green, back in a minute.
Aloha, this is Reg Baker, and I am the host of Business in Hawaii. We talk about positive stories of businesses in Hawaii, how they have been successful, and how they have overcome some of the obstacles that a lot of us encounter when we try to have a business here. And believe it or not, there are a number of positive stories here, and we want to talk to all of you. So we broadcast live every Thursday at 2 o'clock, and it rebroadcasts again on Olelo Channel 54. So I sure hope to see you next time. Please tune in on Thursdays at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Hi, I'm your host on ThinkTech Asia, Bill Sharp. I look forward to you joining us each Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock when we film right here in our studio in downtown Honolulu. The show, ThinkTech Asia, focuses on contemporary events in Asia. And by Asia, we mean anything from Hawaii, south to Australia and New Zealand, west to Pakistan, and as far north as the Russian Far East. Clearly, this is one of the most economically dynamic centers of the world, and we bring you up to date on what's going on in a whole host of countries in this very vital region. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Good afternoon again. Howard Wiig, Code Green, ThinkTech Hawaii. My guest, Dana Cotter, Energy Accelerator. We're just learning what a broad impact and broad implications Energy Accelerator has for the future of Hawaii and indeed for the national energy scene. Let's look at the next slide here, our impact. And these are all the different segments, technology segments that you're involved in: energy storage, energy efficiency, new data points, electric vehicles, transportation. We even have a picture of a cow here. So you're even going into the agricultural segment, because just as we import almost all our energy, we import almost all of our food, grow local food, you're creating some nice jobs. I would say including some good blue-collar type jobs for those people who just have a high school education, but they can make a good living this way.
That's actually a really interesting point that you bring up, because sometimes when we bring our portfolio of companies, like if you don't explain it, it's hard to see the connection between them. But the company that works with cows is actually called Kunoa Cattle Company, and their whole vision is to stop the export of baby calves and then the re-import of meat, because there's this huge industry, and that's how many miles of transportation and like energy waste. And so they're trying to divert that and raise them locally on a sustainable property with grass-fed beef, and really try to close that loop and get us off of imported and exporting livestock and importing.
So I gather the reason the calves are exported is because there's not enough inexpensive meal for them to eat. Is that it? So they're trying to feed these youngsters to grow up here. Is that?
Just like anything else, it's a systems approach. So it's the cost of land, it's the accessibility of the resources to have healthy grass-fed beef instead of grain-fed. And so it's this whole system that they're trying to redo and innovate.
And our next slide takes us to, I believe this is the growth, the astronomical growth of Energy Accelerator. We thought the Chinese economy was growing fast, but look at this. Wow. What's going on here? You mentioned that you started with 11 employees and now you're up to 60 employees in just a few years.
No, that's not our company personally, the Energy Accelerator. Actually, when I first started at the Energy Accelerator last year, we had, I believe it was 6, and now we're at 11. But some of the companies that we fund, they've seen this exponential growth.
Okay. That's where I got the 11 to 60 from,
So some of our companies have been able to hire a bunch of new people and really focus on expanding their business team as they expand into new markets and really solidify their market position. I think one of the most exciting points on this slide is the follow-on funding piece. And that really shows not only are we putting money in, but other investors they're getting follow-on funding, they're getting accepted into other accelerators, and showing the impact that our dollar can have on these companies as they continue to grow and gain interest.
Talk about return on investment. And a lot of this follow-on funding is probably private funding too.
A good majority of it is. We've also had a large project finance, a company raise a very large project finance piece, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Okay, well, let's go to the next slide. And this involves, let's see, there's somebody in the center there named Dana Cotter. And there's some familiar names up there.
Yeah, so this is just an overview of our team and how much we've grown. And not only just grown for the sake of growing, but we've grown to really fill strategic gaps. And as we continue to grow and take on more companies, it's really important for us to have this team around us that's equally as passionate and also has their own market segments, if you will, within the EX industry.
Wow. And the next slide is our impact STEM. STEM to me means something else. It probably has a unique meaning here, though.
So this is not the science, technology, engineering, and math, but this is STEM Inc., which is a battery storage company.
Oh, particular company, okay.
So this is a really exciting company for us because we've seen, like we said, the exponential growth of this company. They've come into our company in 2013 and then immediately closed a round of financing.
Wow.
Which was exciting. And then they've continued to do so and they've continued to grow. But this is one of the companies that has had a great local impact as well. They had their VP of Hawaiian operations actually move out here to help take on this project that they're doing, which is 1 megawatt of storage here in Hawaii. But I think the best part about this project is the transformational aspect of it, because STEM was already a great company before they got into our program, but they're using this pilot project and this demonstration project to really take their company to the next level by interconnecting their systems here in Hawaii, and that's something that they hope to once again scale and repeat once they've proven it here.
Yeah, and for those of you not in the field, this battery technology is really, really, really important for Hawaii's future, because we have PVs, photovoltaics, all over the place, and they're continuing to grow. But a little problem, sun goes down. And in Hawaii, our peak electrical demand is between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. So you're supplying all this energy, and it goes away just when you need it the most. Answer, batteries.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of the fact that Tesla, the electric car company, announced that it was building this huge mega factory outside of Reno in Nevada. And then they said, well, instead of building so many cars, we're going to shift to batteries. And they sold, I think it was 50,000 units right off the bat. And the factory isn't even half built.
Yep.
Battery storage is so, so, so important. And here it is coming to little old Hawaii.
Yep, it's definitely a hot topic recently. And what's really cool is we're seeing it here, and we're seeing it here before other technologies too. So
beautiful. And the next slide, we have, I think, one of your favorite projects, the IBIS project.
So IBIS is a great example of the different ways that our program can impact a company. They came in our 2013 company actually as a spin-off of Oceanet, the R&D company. And then they were in our go-to-market track where they found their market. And what's really cool is they actually pivoted. So they were really focused on residential. They're a plug load management system. So they wanted to attack the residential market, and then realized through this customer discovery model that more commercial and larger scale was more of their speed. And then they entered into our demonstration track and now have started a project with the University of Hawaii across multiple campuses. They have 1,200 plugs that they have, and they're managing about 1,500 devices at UH, which is helping them see what their energy usage is, when it is, what's drawing the most, and helping create that energy efficiency plan that will help reduce the energy at UH.
And last time I looked, UH Manoa had an energy bill over $20 million a year.
Yeah.
And as somebody who worked with that institution till he got gray hair, I can say that under a well-managed program, that bill could be cut in half.
I think what's exciting about it is not only the willingness of UH to do projects like this with our companies, it's having a personal investment in it, because I went to UH and we saw those energy costs being passed down in our tuition. And it was said that one quarter for every $1 of our tuition went to energy. And so if we can reduce that and make it more accessible to not only everyone, but tuition-wise, I think that's a big win for everyone involved.
Yeah, and that'll make me feel personally a whole heck of a lot better. I toiled in the fields and got very dubious results in some cases. So now something really, really is happening.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
And next we come to Terviva.
So Terviva is one example of our agriculture companies. So they have this tree called Pongamia.
Pongamia.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting plant because so the company started doing this and planting this tree in Florida, where they had this virus come through the citrus orchards and destroy the land, and so it was not able to it wasn't able to produce anything. And it was found that Pongamia thrived in this area. Not only did the actual plant thrive, but it also helped the soil. It
maybe reintroduced nitrogen to the soil, probably, yeah.
So, but on top of that even, the Pongamia produces seeds. And with these seeds, what Terviva is trying to do is they're making downstream business by creating animal feed, by also dabbling into biofuels and seeing what the potential of the seed is. Because as of right now, they have each seed or the seeds have 8 times more protein than soy, and they have like a huge potential to impact multiple markets. So it's a really exciting company. And this is also an example of a company who brought someone to Hawaii to work and help this project, and they've also hired multiple different people to help support this project.
So are they on this island or a neighbor island?
They're on the North Shore.
Out in the Wailua area, probably.
I haven't been to the orchard yet. That's coming up soon.
And it sounds like it just grows like a weed. It doesn't need a whole lot of maintenance.
It doesn't need a whole lot of.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not taking care of them personally. I'm sure that the company would say a little differently, but it uses less water and is just a really great plant to introduce into old sugarcane fields and other places like that to really help.
Yeah, and again, jobs. Good, solid blue-collar jobs. And this protein, is it good just for animal feed, or might it be used eventually for human consumption also? Or
I'm not sure what their overall plans are, but right now those are the 2 streams that they're really focusing on and looking for, and hiring people to explore those areas.
Well, we unfortunately are reaching the end of our time. Oh, was that the last?
That was the last.
Oh, goody. Oh, good timing then. So in summary, do you have any idea how many new jobs you have already created in Hawaii? And another aspect there is, we have the brain drain from Hawaii. Our brightest kids go to the west coast of the mainland. We're getting brain gain here. Yeah. Do you have any ideas about overall employment that you've affected so far?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the Hawaii specific number is, but I know that our companies have been able to hire over 200 people and create, in our vast portfolio, have over 200 jobs created. So that's very exciting for us and the economy.
And it sounds like these are high-skilled jobs, which would imply that they're pretty nice high-salary jobs. So yeah, there's no more dishwashing for $12 an hour or whatever. Yeah, these are hopefully salaries where people can raise families and take a mortgage out in their home, and the whole business there.
They're also startups, so with any startup, there's definitely a hustle aspect of it where it's a continuous growth, and it's the long-term vision, I think, is what really draws people to it.
Wow. And so what do you see? Do you see this acceleration going on for year after year after year, or maybe even the acceleration goes up?
So with our program or with the companies?
With the whole program.
With the program, I think as we grow and we advance and we really learn, we're going to dial in on our process. And we might not have as many companies, but I think we'll have a greater potential for impact. And I think as we begin to layer all of these technologies within Hawaii, we're actually going to look into the whole Asia Pacific. And so we have our first project going in Australia this year with a company called Bright Light Systems, which is really exciting. And I think we'll see a couple more international projects in the next few years.
Wow. So little old Hawaii is helping the world to go green.
That's the goal, starting in Hawaii and solving the world's energy challenges.
You heard it from me first. You're going to be in China in the foreseeable future, because China has definitely woken up to its environmental needs.
I can't say that specifically, but...
No, you heard it from me. I just have this grand global picture. We have just scratched the surface. We could talk about so many other programs here. So we're going to have you or somebody else back from Energy Accelerator in the foreseeable future. But we have to break it up now. Howard Wiig, Code Green, ThinkTech Hawaii, Dana Cotter, Energy Accelerator, thank you so much. This has been a very, very exciting program. See you in 2 weeks.